Hey, how are you?
See,
I was over at the track. There
Tony, can I have that phone number?
thank you.
Can I have that phone number?
Yes,
Okay.
you ready?
Yes.
561 09 You want to dial it on my phone?
No.
Are you dialing up there?
We're
Oh, look
dialing
at
up
you.
there, right.
High tech over here in the shores.
Yes. Or aren't they?
Yeah, here's your piece, right here. Let's drive the future of technology.
Red, you could work no brainer. It's all free. How you doing, man?
Too close to the sidewall?
Here and everything.
37 to something. Yeah.
I think it'll be all right.
Thank you. That's all I needed to.
I know. And I had a conference call at 2:30 that I had to hang up. That's why I was a little quick.
It's there, and she's really froze, but
And Jared Moskovitz on, it's the emergency manager. All of us training about the vaccines.
Yeah, how's it going?
Starting to get more. They're going to do Walgreens, Sam's, and all of that. So yeah,
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, people were, really excited. But we got the supply. Once we get the supply, we have the.
Well, the Johnson Johnson, if they
Oh,
get that
that's what he
approved,
said.
One shot
That's what they're
now.
waiting for, because that's what's bad. They have to hold that
One
second.
shot is doing done.
I think Marilyn was able to get hers. I was worried about her.
She's got to wait 28 days apart, right? I hear 28 days apart. Absolutely. Well,
It really takes hold of you. I got the Pfizer, so I had to wait 21.
so you're all set.
Said I got my first and second. Yeah.
I'd have to listen.
Now, what does that mean? What was it about? But it's not going to hurt you. You can give it to
If I get it, I'll probably get a lesser. I can't give it to anyone else. Exactly, yeah, because they're not going to go in public.
Yeah.
You had,
Yeah.
It's not 11 on the other end. Oh, I get it. Here, listen.
no side effect whatsoever. Not even had a little bit. But yeah, I think it's more who gives it to you than anything else.
Come to me and then I can.
Oh, okay. Send me this to the
Sailor.
We have a sign in this.
I know what I told Nancy.
He didn't have anything. Now his half sister, Moderna.
Doing just
Who knows?
It's going to affect
Yeah,
everybody, right?
exactly.
Just like I can get it and I die and somebody else gets it and dies.
Right.
drinking and smoking during Spain.
You know where he's
He's on his
from or
way.
anything.
Mileage
You don't. That's all he can give us his name.
My boy.
We're good, sir. How are you? We're good. You know us, trying to stay in business.
It's a fight.
To the owner.
Just didn't see a lot of action. Oh, yes, you do. Just when the winter time and it's hard, and then the COVID too. I mean, anytime somebody dies, we can go.
That kind of reason.
I don't know that we have to keep addressing the health. Homicide to death, murder.
I don't know. I mean,
Got front row seat, eh?
And that's what's happening.
You must know somebody.
no, we're only.
It's a tough time.
I think we're good.
People, it's every single year.
With the natural disasters, I get it. Fire. But it's getting worse. My love.
Like I said, it's not a natural disaster. It's a natural disaster. Well, this one, yeah, like 60.
I don't like it.
My employees stay the same.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to order our February 9th, 2021 Daytona Beach Shores City Council meeting. Sherry, could you do a roll call, please?
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Vice Mayor Lindauer,
Here.
Councilmember Bryan. Here. Councilmember Frislow.
Here.
Councilmember Place.
Here.
Thank you. Reverend Bob? We have Reverend Bob from the Drive-In Christian Church.
Will you bow in prayer with me? Almighty God, as we come into this meeting tonight, we ask that you would bless us with your presence, with your power, with your wisdom and guidance, that the decisions that are made in these chambers tonight will reflect the graciousness of this city, the love of neighbor and civic pride, the responsibility that we have placed upon elected officials. We pray for all those who serve our city in so many different ways, as staff, as public safety officials and officers, as volunteers. We thank you for each one who contributes so greatly to making this a wonderful place to live and visit. Especially on our minds this week are the race fans that come to our area. We pray for their safety, for their health and wellness throughout their time here, and that they will leave our area having had a wonderful experience. We also are hopeful, continue to be hopeful, that the coronavirus vaccines will be effective and will bring health and healing to all that we do and to the people that could be affected. We ask these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bob, can you take a couple of minutes? Everyone's pretty familiar with the Day of the Duels that we normally have the Thursday right before the race, and we're having a semi-Day of the Duels. Can you explain to everyone what's going on this Thursday? We'd love to support you on that.
Sure. The city has been such a great partner with the Drive-In Church and with Halifax Urban Ministries over the past 7 years in sponsoring the Day of the Duels Motoring Festival. That has been a fundraiser for the church's ministries, as well as for the work of Halifax Urban Ministries in fighting hunger in Volusia County, in providing shelter for homeless families, and so many other great things that they do for the community. This year it was obvious to us that we were going to be sort of in that limbo place right now where we didn't know whether it was going to be safe for us to do a full-blown car show or not. So later in the year last year, we reconceived an idea that would still bring our community together, would still give support to Halifax Urban Ministries in the great work that they do, and we conceived this drive-through food drive. And so we would like to invite anyone who would like to come by on Thursday between 11 o'clock in the morning and 1 o'clock to the church property to bring non-perishable food items, also cash donations during that time. We will receive them then. The Halifax Urban Ministries will have their truck there and representatives there to receive those donations. They will go right to the food pantries in Volusia County so that that food can be distributed as quickly as possible in our community. And again, I thank the city for the great partnership that you have provided over the years for this event. It shows because it's just an anecdotal example of what a great event this has become over the years and how effective it is in helping those in need. I came home one day last week and found an envelope taped to my door. I live at Oceans Grand. And one of my neighbors had left a check in that envelope for $1,000 for Halifax Urban Ministries for the effort that we're doing together on Thursday. So it was a real blessing. I know it will bless them too. And I know that we'll see a lot more abundant generosity on Thursday. And I thank you for giving me this opportunity to share about it.
You're very welcome. We will see you then. Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have a presentation on EV charging stations. And Tony Tucci, can you come up? And I'm going to call Peter. And what is Peter's last name?
Martinez.
Martinez on the phone, okay.
I have the easy job.
Upside down, so I hope I did this correctly. Hey, Peter. Peter, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yeah, hi, it's Nancy
Yes,
Miller.
I can.
Okay, it's Nancy Miller from Daytona Beach Shore. So you're on speakerphone, so everyone on in the chambers here tonight and online can hear you. So I'm going to go back to my seat and we'll have Tony start that presentation, but you should be able to talk now.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. I just want to thank you for your time. I appreciate the opportunity. Today I want to talk to you about the FPL Evolution pilot program. I hope that we can work together to install some EV charging stations at your community center. I think we have a good program that's really a win for everyone. So you can go to the second slide. So to set the stage, I think it's important to realize that electric vehicles are definitely becoming more popular. There's industry news every day. Florida is actually the #2 state for EVs in the entire country behind California. EVs have actually doubled in the last 3 years. We're seeing that people want to go green, cost of batteries and cars going down, and by 2030 we may have 1 million electric vehicles on the road in Florida. So with that obviously comes opportunity. We all need to evolve. From the FPL perspective, we need to be ready to solve this charging risk. We want to understand charging behavior. We want to be prepared. We want to be there for our customers that rely on us. So we think that the best way for us to do that is to deploy charging stations and learn as much as we can. And that's why we rolled out our program, FPL Evolution. We can go to the next slide. So FPL Evolution, what we're doing is looking at installing 1,000 charging ports throughout our FPL territory. We're at about 400 so far, and we're looking at specific segments. So workplace, so think an office or a headquarters, destination, something like an attraction or a hotel, and fast charging as well. So you were interested in a small segment we're calling urban charging. So these would be fast chargers in an urban area. We're only going to be doing 48 of these in the state this year. You go to the next slide. So let's talk a little bit more about the types of charging. I mentioned fast charging, right? So there's 3 types of EV chargers, level 1, 2, and 3. 3 is the fast charger. And it's pretty exciting because as the name suggests, it's fast. You can charge a battery in 30 to 45 minutes. That's a significantly faster than the level 2 charger, which is typically going to be 7 to 8 hours. 7 to 8 hours is fine, still better than just a regular plug. But that makes sense if you're plugging in at work or if you're plugging in overnight. We don't want drivers to worry about where they'll be charging when time's a factor. So that's really what we're trying, what we're aiming to address our footprint and at your community center. I think you guys have a beautiful facility surrounded by really dense residential areas. So the idea is that someone can plug in, take a class, maybe stop at Walgreens, and then be on their way. So it should work out very well. We can go to the next slide. So there's several benefits of partnering with FPL. We're promoting the adoption of renewable EVs. It's a green and sustainable initiative. That's something we're proud of. We do proactively monitor all of our stations. Reliability is very important to FPL. That's not going to change today. We also have an FPL Evolution app, which helps users find the existing charging stations and is actually used to initiate the charging session. With fast charging, the driver does pay to use the charger. EV drivers know that. What they do is they set up a credit card within the app just once, and then every time asked, that's just a few clicks on the phone in front of the charger, and they're ready to go. If you can go to the next slide. So participating with us is really easy. We try to make this easy. There's no cost. We provide all the equipment and the installation, again, at no cost to you. Just for some perspective, the chargers alone are around $30,000. That's not even installed. There's also no ongoing maintenance costs or any kind of obligation to you. What we do ask for, though, is a 10-year commitment. And at the end of the term, we can either remove the station or sell to you for fair market value, which would be very low at that point because the way we've actually structured the life of the assets is for 10 years. So we're making a sizable investment, obviously, so we want to make sure we're deploying our capital responsibly. So that's why we require that agreement. What we also require is easement, because we keep setting a dedicated transformer just for these stations. Because of the higher voltage, the higher power, we want to transform just for these. In regards to electricity costs, the Florida Public Service Commission recently approved a tariff that allows FPL to charge customers directly. So we don't have to worry about, having an account that's reimbursing you or anything like that. So the new account will be under FPL's name, and you will never have any exposure whatsoever to electricity costs. So it's nice and easy for everyone. You can go to the next slide. So hopefully you're looking at some pictures right now. So we have some pictures of some other sites that we finished. Take a look there. Several different sites. So we take pride in doing a nice, clean installation. We do brand the unit, and we'll add signage and special parking spaces just to make it easier for drivers to find spaces, and the software just to kind of keep the other cars out as well. We partner with 2 charging equipment manufacturers. They both have great products. One is ChargePoint, which is the manufacturer of the unit you already have. And the other is Power Electronics. They make a lot of different power equipment. We actually use them for a lot of other things at FPL. Each unit will have 2 cords, but that is not to charge 2 different vehicles, right? So the level 2 that you have probably is 2 cords and it can charge 2 vehicles. This is 2 cords with 2 different plugs. So that's really what makes them universal. They have what's called an ECS plug and a shadow plug. Those are the 2 universal, the 2 main, I shouldn't say main, those are the 2 V2 universal plugs. Our charging equipment is compatible with all EVs. The only exception to that is Tesla, and Tesla drivers know that. Tesla has their own charging infrastructure that the light people use, but they can, Tesla drivers can use an adapter if they would like. Again, Tesla drivers do know that. All right, you can go to the next slide. All right, so to get us to 400 charging ports, we've had quite a few partners. But, we're excited to continue to add where we think it makes sense. You're a great example of where we want to be. I think you can go to the next slide. In terms of next steps, what we want to do is identify some potential locations for the chambers. With your location, I think we do have some flexibility. You have a good amount of parking spots. We do have existing power on the west side of the property as well as on the north side. We can take advantage of. I've sent our standard site-host agreement for your review. It's short, but we can't customize it. We're trying to just keep the same agreement for everyone, just make things easier operationally, and make it really a fair thing as well. Assuming we didn't want to move forward with the agreement, from there, it's around a 6-month process. We've come to a detailed site assessment. We can then design the work, and we go to permitting and installation. So actual construction, a very small portion of that time. Actual construction is probably 4 to 6 weeks, but most of the time there we're waiting on design and permitting. But once we come out and block off the area as needed, we'll try not to impact your normal operations. And then they'll be energized and they'll be available to the public. So that is all I have. With that, I will take any questions that you have.
Well, thank you, Peter. Kurt, did you have a question? You're okay. Okay.
Email.
Tony, is there anything else that you wanted to add before I open it up for questions?
No, Peter's got it.
Okay. Any questions from the council?
Have you picked out a site in our city, and if so, where?
The closest
Have I picked out a site in the city? Yes, community center.
here,
Here.
Community center
for this building.
Okay.
All right. So we already have the one unit there. So
Right.
Yeah. So
No,
okay.
I thought there was 2 there.
There's only one.
It's
It's one station with 2 charging
Okay.
ports.
Two chargers. Okay. All right. And
And that is a level 2 charger. So that is it takes time, right? So those level 2 are good for like a workplace charger. Again, these are going to be fast chargers, higher voltage, so people will be able to completely charge their cars in a significantly less amount of time.
And Peter, how many were you thinking about installing here at the community center?
2 units.
3?
2. 2 you said, or 3?
Did you say 3, Peter?
2.
2.
Still like 3 to me.
1, 2.
2.
Two fast charging?
Yes, 1, 2. He does both.
How much does it cost to charge a car in general?
So the rate, so that can depending on, what charger you use, right? So we have our network that we're working on. Tesla has theirs, Electrify America. Ours is going to be 30 cents a kilowatt hour. From personal experience, if you charge, pretty much all the way, it's around $10. And that's pretty much where the industry is. So our rate has to be approved by the PSC, and it's comparable to everyone else's. Every year we will have, we'll need to true up just to keep an eye on things and report to the PSC to make sure that our rate is where it should be. But yeah, we're not around. It is 30 cents a kilowatt hour, and that is, again, from charging a company vehicle, I can tell you it's around $10 when you want to go. Obviously, that will depend on the vehicle and how empty you are, but that should give you a ballpark for what it is.
Okay, thank you.
And Peter, I lost my train of thought what I was going to ask you. There is no cost whatsoever to the city, correct?
Correct.
Could you compare that $10 to the number of gallons?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Could you compare the $10 to the number of gallons? Just to get a feel for.
Compare it to gallons of gas, basically.
Yeah.
Any idea?
Oh, to the number of gallons.
Right.
Okay. Not sure I have perfect comparison for that. I know that the rate that we have be, you know, an equivalent of the gallons.
City Manager Booker, I know right now we have that one that's currently out there. That's only a level 2, is that correct?
That is correct, and I would suggest, right now, it's free to charge at level 2 over 70 hours. I would suggest that maybe we turn our site, look at turning our site over to FPL or terminating our contract there and just make them all quick charge sites and people would pay.
Okay, and our intent from the beginning, is this correct, that we had said for X amount of time, we were gonna pick up the charge? And I believe we've had it there about 2.5 years?
It's been, yeah, it's been a little over 2 years, and we kind of did it as a tourist stimulus type thing, you know, but we're getting locals that are doing most of the charging there that I've seen, so it's probably time to
Okay.
either buy out our contract or turn the facility over to FBL. Maybe they could do 3 instead of 2.
Peter, is that something that we would do? Take over a contract, or if they get out of theirs, like, can they use that equipment type thing, or is it completely separate?
We wouldn't necessarily take over the contract, but we can explore, it's something we can look into.
If you
It's
could,
only been a few years, it's, you know, it's probably still a good station. You know, we can look into some options. What I'm, you know, discussing with you folks is, you know, faster charger. We do have, you know, like I mentioned, the workplace chargers where we are putting, you know, pretty much that same unit at, or, you know, workplace and destination type locations. For that program, similar to this one, we are installing it for free, but we are actually having the host pay for the electricity. So, I mean, something we can talk about further, you know, depending on what your goals are, maybe we can explore some kind of solution.
if you could
But
look.
for this location, we do want to do the 2 fast urban chargers.
Okay, if you could look into that, we'd appreciate it. I think we found out what we thought was a 3-year contract was actually a 5. So, you know, we'd like it to probably look into something like that. So do I have any questions from the audience? Anyone that would like Tony or Peter to answer any of their questions? Yes, Lori, if you want to come up. Sorry. Name and address, please. You don't have to have that on, unless you feel comfortable.
Lori Larson, 2 Oceans West Boulevard. What would be fair market value? Wouldn't you want to know that at the end of 10 years? You have to buy that equipment.
Peter, can you answer that question? What would be fair market value? Do you have any idea?
What's the fair market value? I don't have a number on that.
You said it was 30,000.
The program manager gets a little more color, I don't know exactly what it is. But it should be, you know, around this. It's going to be, it may even be $1.
Okay,
But
but
I can circle back with
at the end of 10 years, we'd
And
have,
also, I think you should keep in mind, so right now, the way the agreement is written is that there's 2 options, right? There's the removal and there's the sale. But in reality, within the next 10 years, you know, we're going to learn a lot. And more than likely, I would imagine that we'll probably add some kind of upgrade option or something like that as we, you know, again, learn more and better define our strategy going forward.
okay, so we would have the 2 options if we decided at that time to have it removed or the sale. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then,
I'll also add, if we do remove them, we can remove the station and leave the remaining equipment, like the underground equipment there. So if you wanted to, you could put in your own new station.
okay. But 10 years from now, there might be an upgraded product too. Would that be one of the options, to upgrade to something newer that might come out 10 years from now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, you know, can't predict the future, don't have a crystal ball. The only 2 options we put in the agreement were the 2 that are concrete right now. But again, I just think, you know, 10 years is a lot of time. EVs and how we, you know, handle, you know, charging infrastructure is going to continue to evolve. So we will have more options at the time for that.
Okay, thank you. Any other question?
Thank you.
Thank you. So where are we at right now? Is this just a discussion and you're going to look into it? Do we need to, where are we at on this now?
Right now, I just wanted to get council's blessing if this is something you want to move forward with, and then we can work with the folks from FPL that you have.
Do we need a motion, John, or just a consensus?
What,
You had another question,
what
Richard?
are the, yeah, what is, have they identified the specific
locations at the community center?
Yeah, right where this one is,
Oh,
right
right
where
there.
it currently is, right
And
now.
that's the only one they have planned for the shores?
The only two, yes,
I mean, the only two?
at this point.
And right now, you just need a consensus for the city manager to move forward.
Okay.
There's no formal vote.
All right, Richard?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
I do too.
Okay, I agree. Councilman
I
Frizzle?
agree too,
Yeah.
but I think hopefully city manager will be able to negotiate something in that agreement where if the technology changes quicker than the 10 years and those things become somewhat obsolete, that there's something that FP&L would do to kind of go with the times.
Peter, did you hear that comment?
I did. I understand the concern. I wouldn't use the word obsolete, and these chargers right now are the latest and greatest. They're putting out power that actually, they're putting out more power than a lot of cars currently can even handle. So I think, we're in a good position for years to come.
Yeah, do you know what the efficiency is in terms of the power in versus the power that gets into the car?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Do you know what the efficiency is in terms of the power in versus the power that actually gets into the car? The reason why I'm asking the question, because that seems to me to be the only important thing that might happen, if the efficiency is at, say, 60% now, it gets up to 80% or 90% later on.
I can't quantify that. I'm not sure what the efficiency is. There's going to be losses for heat, but I don't know exactly what the efficiency is.
Okay, thank
I
you.
can follow up on that. I can look into that.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know.
I have a question. Is there any way that you can upgrade the ones that are existing 3 years, 5 years down the road when the technology is much improved and those things are basically obsolete, the ones that we currently have?
The one, you mean the one that you have out
The
there?
currently have.
Oh. Well, yeah, he's gonna look into,
The contract about, I can't predict the future, right? So right now, the two options are the removal, or the sale. Again, things will take shape, but I can't, put something in the contract that I don't know, what it is yet, so.
Well, I was just wondering whether FPL might find that they can make a lot more money by replacing those with, let's say, fast charging.
Peter, he's talking about the ones that currently they have, and
You're talking about the one we
Yes.
currently have?
Yeah.
or the one-
you're gonna look into the whole contract thing, the one, on the old one they have.
No guarantees,
Oh,
but
yeah.
we'd like you to
But
look
that's
into
it. I
that.
mean, so you mentioned the contract. I'm not sure, who installed that for you or who manages that, but if you, send me the information, I can look into that.
Right, yeah, Tony, so if you, Tony, if you want to get with our,
I'll get
His
his
charge point, and we have remaining on that contract to pay $6,480, which is the remaining 3 years. We paid $2,160 a year, plus the electric.
okay, any other questions for Tony or Peter? Okay, if not, we appreciate you coming this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it, take care.
Thank you.
Bye now, Peter, thank you. Mel, can you hang that up?
Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, next, we're going to go on to my favorite, the Employee Service Awards. And with COVID, it's a little bit different this year. I do want to recognize these people. Captain Fowler, can you please tell them when you see them? We appreciate them so much. So tonight, it would be Seth Cunningham in Community Services with 5 years. I'm sorry, Fred, that one's yours. Officer Gary Melfers in Public Safety, 15 years. And Officer Glenn Swartz in Public Safety, 30 years. Do I understand he's retiring at the end of the month?
He is. His last full shift is Sunday.
Oh, all right. Thank you. Would you please pass on our thanks to him? And we just really honor each one of them. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, next we'll go on to the approval of the minutes from our city council meeting on January 26th, 2021. Do I hear a motion to accept those minutes?
Motion to accept.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, Sherry, can you take a roll?
Yes, ma'am, just one second. Councilmember Frizzle,
Yes.
Councilmember Flores,
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer,
Yes,
Mayor Miller.
Yes, thank you. We also, on February 1st, had a workshop talking about public safety. We had our chief present to us. Do we have the minutes attached to that? Can I hear a motion on accepting those minutes?
Motion to accept those minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? If not, Sherry, can you take a roll, please?
Councilmember Frizzle,
Yes.
Councilmember Flores,
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer,
yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes, thank you. Okay, we have 2 items on our consent agenda. If I do,
There's one more set of minutes.
oh, okay, that was the.
Workshop from the
Workshop on the
26th.
26th.
Works out on the 26th, thank you. Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes for the workshop from the 26th?
Motion to accept the workshop minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? Okay, Sherry, can you take a roll on that, please?
Councilmember Frizzle,
Yes.
Councilmember Flores,
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer,
Yes,
Mayor Miller.
Yes, thank you. 2 items on the consent agenda. If we don't need anything polled, do I have a motion to accept both items on the consent agenda?
Motion to accept both items on the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, Sherry, can you take a roll on that, please?
Councilmember Frizzle,
Yes.
Councilmember Flores,
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer,
yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes, thank you. Okay, next, can we have the report of the city attorney? Attorney Carey, what do you have for us this evening?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. For the past couple of weeks, the city attorney's office has worked on several things for the city. Drafted an invitation bid for the city's property at 136 Beachcomber and submitted that to staff for review. Reviewing the city charter and charter review proposals from previous drafts. We supported an economic development grant agreement by starting to prepare that for council's discussion whenever that comes up. We did the resolution for the 2020 program for the PPI and or GIP, excuse me, and that will be coming up on the agenda later. And supported an economic development meeting, providing legal counsel, and review and approve with modifications bid documents for city's total franchise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I ask for any comment, did I see something on the news lately that one of the opioid lawsuits was settled? Do you know anything about that?
I'm not sure, I haven't heard that, and I just got a box of documents on my desk today that I'll be reviewing if there's anything.
I thought I had
about
heard that in
and-
Florida. Okay, thank you. Any questions for Attorney Carey on his report? Okay, if not, City Manager Booker, what do you have for us?
First of all, Madam Mayor, you are correct. There was something in the news about one of the companies settling for 300 and some odd
It
million
was
dollars.
very, I figured by the time it was divided up, it was about 4 cents for each city, but,
You're probably right. 109 Belmont Avenue, both the site work and the renovation of the building have begun. Actually, it's well underway at this point. There's no word as yet on the commercial tenant for that property. In regard to sewer redundancy, which came up at the workshop that we recently had with council and staff, based upon staff discussions, it appears that Fort Orange is moving forward with the design of an additional force main under the river, although not optimal. Optimal would be to have complete redundancy at the city of Daytona Beach. This option will provide a much greater level of sanitary sewer redundancy than we currently have. In regard to Ocean 25, site work has begun on this property or project. Sewer line has been relocated, and it is anticipated that construction will commence shortly. And I think it may already happen.
great.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions for the city manager on his report?
Yes, who's paying for the force main under the water?
Since it's the city of Port Orange, I would assume they would, unless we can do something jointly to negotiate perhaps a better rate or maybe to increase our chances of getting a grant. Right now, it's all on them.
And then, who all is using that at this point in time besides us?
All the incorporated area that's on sanitary sewer, ponds inlet, and the shore.
Wilbur by the Sea?
Well, unincorporated,
Okay.
unincorporated area. Those are all septic, that is.
Do you have any idea what the cost or the schedule is?
I do not. Too early to tell.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, if not, we'll move on. We don't have any old business. We'll move on to new business, and this is Resolution 2020-01. Attorney Carey, can you read that for us, please?
Yes. This is Resolution 2021-01, a resolution of the City of Daytona Beach Shores, Volusia County, Florida, adopting the Volusia Multi-Jurisdiction Program for Public Information Plans, providing for implementing administrative actions, providing for savings provision, conflicts, severability, and an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Was this Stuart? I wondered where you were. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. The Program for Public Information Plan is actually an outreach plan that circles around or centers around flood information. So the goal of this plan, which was developed by all the local governments here in Volusia County, including Daytona Beach Shores, is to reduce the costs associated with flood damage and obviously reduce any kind of loss of death that's associated with flood hazards. So what this basically does is it communicates to different, to the property owners here in Volusia County what the dangers are with regards to flood hazards, and also gives them suggestions with regards to flood insurance. So two of the items that we've committed to here in Daytona Beach Shores include the letter that you send out every year, Madam Mayor, to the different property owners for the flood zone, and also the flood fact brochure that we put in the sewer billing every April and March of. And so that provides all kinds of information with regards to flood insurance and with regards to flood hazards in the area. So by adopting this particular plan tonight, Madam Mayor, through this resolution 2020-01, the citizens of Daytona Beach Shores will be able to maintain the current premium discount of 25% if they're in the flood hazard area. And if they're outside the flood hazard area and they have flood insurance, they're able to maintain that 10% discount through adopting this plan.
Okay. Do I hear?
Stuart, I have a question. I notice it's in the Pelican every year about the code that the people are to use. But do the insurance companies automatically apply that, or do the residents have to?
They don't have to.
Tell them
it's automatically through the CRS and the National Flood Insurance Program. It's automatic.
Once you call up your address, they're automatically going to get the discount without having to.
Correct. They don't have to ask for it. It's automatic.
Okay, do I hear a motion to accept Resolution 2020-01?
Yeah, I move we accept the resolution 2021-01.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? Okay, if not, Sherry, can you take a roll?
Vice Mayor Lindauer,
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan,
Yes.
Councilmember Pelaez,
Yes.
Councilmember Frislow,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes, thank you. Okay, next we're going to go on to Resolution 2021-02, and this is a budget amendment. Attorney Carey, can you read that for us, please?
Yes, this is Resolution 2021-02, a resolution of the City of Daytona Beach Shores, Volusia County, Florida, amending the general fund budget, providing for appropriations, providing an effective date.
Okay, thank you. So what this is, one of the workshops, for those of you that weren't here, we are almost close, we're in a crisis in Daytona Beach Shores that we have lost several of our public safety officers. So we came up with some ideas that help us not only in recruiting and retention. One of the retention items and the recruiting as well was a take-home car. Understanding from our chief and our captain, when they go out to interview candidates, that's one of the things they're asking, what is the starting pay? How much will I be making, and do I have a take-home car? So in order to be competitive, we did approve them a budget amendment or we talked about a budget amendment to purchase additional public safety vehicles. So Kurt, right now, you just need approval to adjust our current budget to allow for these, or can you explain it to us, please?
Correct. The budget amendment appropriates $100,000 from our fund balance or reserves, or for layman's terms, a savings account, and puts that into the budget. As you're aware, we cannot make purchases if they're not budgeted, so we have to add it to the budget, and that's what this resolution does.
Okay, and right now, there'll not be any additional cost to the taxpayers with this amendment, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Any questions for either the chief or captain or Kurt on this item?
But I do have a comment. I think it's important that the residents who are not here for the workshop understand that in the chief's presentation, he showed all of these surrounding cities, what their pay scale was, but also whether they were supplying cars or not. And it turned out that every city that we are competing with supplies a car to the police officers, with the exception of Ponce Inlet. So it's very important that we not only remain competitive in a pay scale, but also with the benefits too.
Thank you. Okay, any questions from the audience? Okay, if not, do I hear a motion to accept Resolution 2021-02?
Motion to accept Resolution 2021-02.
Second.
Thank you. That was Vice Mayor. Okay. And if there's no further discussion, can you take a roll, please, Sherry?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Frislow?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer?
Yes.
Councilmember Politis?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, thank you. Okay, next we're going to go to discussion on electric motor scooters and electric bicycles. So I have a couple audience comments, but who is leading the discussion on this?
I think we have the owners.
Yes, they're up here to talk about it, but Councilman Bryan, was it you that put this on, wanted this on the agenda?
On the agenda. I do have some opinions.
Okay, do you want to do yours first, or do you want to hear from, I do have two audience comments. Okay, all right, thank you. So I have Louis Matthews, would you like to come up, please? Okay, when you come up, just again, say your name and your address, please.
Louis Matthews, 2 Oceans West, the Grand's right behind us. I own a business here at 2304 South Atlantic Avenue, which is Boogie Down Golf Cart and Bicycle Rentals. And we have been in the Shores now going on 7 years. So we're very happy to be in the Shores. This last year has been very tough on us, as you know, with closing all the hotels and having the COVID and having everything go out. The scooters that we currently rent have been 24 hours. We've approximately put in our coffer, in our pockets, about $20,000 to keep us alive and not go out of business. There's no loans, there's no nothing out there for our independent businesses like we have, so we have to search to find ways to keep in business. This came along, kind of dropped in our laps, and we went gung-ho with it. We actually explained the scooters, make them watch a safety movie, go over everything with them. So we're trying to be responsible with these as much as possible. But when you get a 14-year-old and the mother rents it for him, we can't control that person. Now, what I'd like to suggest is, have we had any accidents? I listened to the last whole meeting that you had on it when y'all brought it up, and everyone was talking about how they're scary and how they can run over our citizens. I'm here too, I'm a citizen also, but has anyone been run over? A bus can run over you. Anything could happen to you walking down the sidewalk, and we're automatically saying that a kid is gonna run over a citizen. And I don't think that's factual yet, and we haven't had anything happen to anyone. I got facts, I made 20 grand. If you take them away, how am I gonna make that 20 grand? I would like to find out, is somebody gonna give me the loan? Is the city gonna take up the loss of my business? So that's what I have to say about the matter. And like I said, we wanna educate the people. We're not trying to hurt anyone, and we're not trying to go out of the bounds of what we already have in the charters by display or anything. We'll go by every guidelines, but it is a value business to me. And that's all, thank you.
Thank you. Louis, before you, I just had one question after you. So do you actually rent the scooters, or you just one of the drop-offs?
It's an open rental. So if you have a credit card and a telephone, you can go up to any site and purchase or rent that thing. I don't have to be open. If they're parked out there, they can walk up and do on their phone to rent the scooter. So it can be rented in Daytona, they ride through the shores, or they can rent them in the shores and ride back to Daytona. Right now, it's the cheapest point of transportation for all the youth that doesn't have money for Ubers, but it's 25 cents a minute. That's $15 an hour. They also have an unlimited ride for $40. That's 24 straight hours. Now, for somebody to get around in Daytona with not much money, that is a viable, means of transportation for, people that are 18, 20, whatever, especially when we have some other events come to town. And we have a lot of events. And the events are way down. I mean, we have 30,000 people coming to the Daytona 500 in ticket sales, from 182,000 to 190,000. We take the loss. I mean, but the hotels and people take the loss. So how are we going to make up the money? Check the bed tax review. It's critically down. So we're trying every single way we can to stay afloat, and this is helping us.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, is there any way I can just jump in real quick
Sure.
and add a little context?
Sure, that's, I was going to ask you to. I had one other audience comment, but if you want to go in.
Maybe it'll help.
Yeah, okay, clarify, all right.
I just wanted to clarify from last week, just so that you understand what we're doing. The discussion came up. I know Attorney Carey, we talked about the possibility of being able to regulate these. We talked about the possibilities of franchise agreements. There's some statutory complications with what you do. I know I think you were looking at the city of Daytona Beach, but I mentioned at the meeting that, because the consensus of council was, these are causing some problems and that, there are some concerns, and that we had, we had been kind of looking the other way with COVID as to the outdoor display component of what they're currently doing. So following that meeting, Gwen went out and visited each one of these businesses and told them that their displays are in violation, and that the council could be potentially considering pro or con with ordinances and how that would end up. But what they're currently doing, is a violation, and if they don't remove them in, I think she gave them a date certain that we'd be sending out notices of violation and stuff. So that's kind of why some of the business owners are here, because in explaining, their position on that, and it's all based on, where we go with outdoor displays. Is it something we want to end up allowing, and and then where we go with the ordinance in general, and where we go with a potential franchise agreement if that's something the city wanted to do. But I just wanted to add
And I
that.
had one follow-up question, though. I think you and I think for council, I thought you and I had a conversation that there was maybe a hotel that these were dropped off at. So this was not, the scooters was not part of their hotel. Can you explain the difference to me with this and Boogie Down, that they do rent that? Do you understand what my question is? Yeah.
The way this business operates, is my understanding, is they go to the scooter company goes to each of these businesses wherever. I don't know if they have a marketing plan or if but some they've gone to the hotels, and I know like Gary Brown up at the Viking. I know he has some out front, and I think what was there about 8 locations?
8 to 10.
8 to 10 locations.
I'm not exactly sure the number.
4 hotels. 4 of the hotels have them, and then the others.
So is there a difference between Boogie Down, that is his line of business, compared to a hotel?
Really, the only difference, the code violation that they're violating by having these outdoor displays is a section of our code that would apply to any outdoor use. It doesn't specify the different. There are some other underlying codes that only apply to the GCRD, and Boogie Downs actually has a little bit of a special arrangement. They came and got a special exception for what they're doing. I haven't looked at their special exception. I don't know if it has anything to do to help them with the scooter component. I don't think it does, but basically they're all in the same boat. There's just a few little nuances, and so if this is something ultimately that the council ends up adopting an ordinance to allow, if they enter into a franchise agreement with different scooter companies to allow it, then allowing some type of outdoor display would be necessary, I think, to for this to work for them, because that's how they get the bulk of their business. People seeing these scooters and using them. So
that helps, the clarification. Do you have a question for Fred, or just a comment?
I'm completely confused. What is it that we're being asked to do?
To not allow them to be.
Well, I don't know that anybody's asking. I mean, the issue came up as being at the last meeting, and there was some concern expressed about the safety of them, and whether or not I know that Daytona Beach was wrangling with this issue, and I think they moved to try to move them into maybe areas with a lower speed limit and things of that nature. But you know, it came out, the council was, I thought, unified in that it was potentially causing some problems, if there was anything we could do to, you know, to crack down on it until, you know, and then that's when we brought up the, you know, the outdoor display component. But as Gwen went out and started talking with the business owners, they were finding out how valuable this is for them and how they're able to derive some revenue from it. So it's a kind of pro and con situation, and ultimately it's up to you guys. But what you're being asked to do, I guess, is consider the issue and whether or not you want to allow it and take steps to allow it through the attorney. And there's some things that you can't control anyway, because I think these things are legal. They could drive them into town, right?
Right, so they could still rent these in Daytona and drive them in the shores. So I think we need to separate the two issues. When I think about the safety of it, I've only had one complaint about somebody almost running someone over, but like our neighbors just got electric bikes. I don't see a lot of difference if they're riding them on the sidewalk between the two of those, or even me riding a bike. I mean, I could just, so, you know, if we put that aside, then we're just really saying, do we think it's unsightly to drop these off? Is that?
And I want to remind too I mean, that's one of the problems is, so, I mean, obviously, it depends on each company and how they handle their operations. So, you know, they may stage 5 or 10 of these at a particular business, and then a person could come along, use the app on their phone, rent the scooter, take off, and then it's, you know, hopefully they would drop it off and at a location that's acceptable to the city, but sometimes they may just drop it off anywhere. And then, you know, and so that was one of the things when we brought in a few years back the Blue Duck Scooters people, and they came to town and they said, look, we want to be a good neighbor to the city, and we want you to allow our product to be utilized in your city, and we want to create a franchise agreement and follow the rules that you think are important. We talked about things like geo-fencing off certain areas of the city. We talked about minimum ages of rentals. We talked about whether they'd be allowed down on the beach and, you know, different things like that. But they were trying to proactively get us to look at that. And the council determined, well, we just really don't want to, you know, deal with this right now. And kind of we kicked the can down the road. And then now we've opened it up to what we were worried about happening in the first place, is that a company just comes to town and they start using them, and now we don't have any way to deal with any concerns and get ahead of it. So now we're kind of reactionary, figuring out where we're going to go. I think that's basically.
This company's not just coming into town. They've been in Daytona Beach shores for 7 years.
This is a
No, I'm not talking. I'm talking about
Scooter X is a new 1 year old.
I think
I'm talking about the scooter company, but not the companies that they're, you know, those.
All right, I think we're a little bit confused, because I think at the end, was it you, Councilman Bryan, that brought this up? And I think we just added it to the agenda. I'm not even sure if we got like a consensus. We just added it to the agenda. So I think we need, talk about it more. So let me have my next audience comment.
Madam Mayor, can I have a question to Fred?
Sure.
Fred, as it stands right now, is it legal to rent a electric scooter in the city of Daytona Beach shores?
I think absolutely it's legal to rent it.
It's legal to rent it. So the code enforcement issue that you had communicated to us regarding Gwen was because some establishments were displaying the product and did not have that legal right to do so, because the spirit of the ordinance restricting it is to not make it look blighted or make it look cheesy.
Right.
Okay. So there's really 3 things going on here. So you have the ability to display the product, whether it's a scooter, whether it's an electric bike, whatever it is.
Right.
And then a subcomponent is, do we want to create or not create a ordinance that bans electric scooter rentals, and then one for electric bicycles that's a pedaling bike but has a little electric motor to it that if you get tired, you can take off on it.
And then the another component would be whether or not you want to have these companies, when they do come to town, enter into a franchise. I don't know, Attorney Carey could answer. I don't know if you can out and out ban these, can you? Because we were talking about the statutory
Yeah,
pre-exemptions?
You can't ban them from the roads because they're street legal vehicles under Florida statutes. So you can't ban them from driving down the road, but obviously you can regulate them insofar as, operating a business or where they pick them up or drop them off, those sorts of things.
Okay. All right, I'm going to listen to our last guest audience speaker here, but then, go ahead, you can come up, but I'm sorry, is your name Jared?
Yes.
Jared, what's your last name?
Jared Root.
Okay, and Councilman Bryan, I think you were the one that brought it up, so I guess I want to hear what your concerns were. Okay, great, thank you.
So,
What's your name and address?
I'm Jared Root, 527 Mark Avenue, Daytona Beach. I'm basically here to support our partners within the community that, Louis is here tonight. We've got quite a few. And I'm also here to answer any questions you might have. I've been in charge of the day-to-day operations on the ground with the scooters. In your last meeting, someone mentioned, why do we want scooters? In the United States last year, 38.5 million people rented a scooter. They use them as an alternative way to travel, as well to have fun. I believe the state, I'm not 100% sure about this, but the state legislation passed some legislation deeming the scooters as an essential form of transportation during the pandemic. It's a safer way to travel rather than being confined in a vehicle, in case of like an Uber or Lyft. That legislation also deems scooters to have the same rights as a bicycle, if I'm understanding that right. I'm not a lawyer. Anyway, I've spoken with many of the business owners and that we partner with, and they've all said kind of the same thing, that the income they've generated from the scooters have really helped them get through these trying times. And I am here, I hope that you guys take those things into consideration when you make decisions regarding this issue. Again, I'm here if you have any questions, I'm available. I appreciate your time.
We'll try to answer. And I do want to add, too, that I did get a letter from Gary Brown from Sun Viking that he said he was paid $6,100 in 2020 that helped him offset that his business was down $350,000 in revenues.
Yeah, so it has helped them quite a bit. You had mentioned some things regarding, scooters left places. And I do want to assure you, we have an ops team. They're working pretty much 24 hours around the clock. We have a GPS on every scooter. So if a scooter sits somewhere for more than, if it's turned off and not being used, I don't care if the person that rented it is standing right next to it, we're going to start making our way to that scooter to get it off the streets. And I think what they're asking for, the businesses, is merely a place to be able to display them. And if you don't want them up, then maybe we can work something out as far as maybe putting them behind a fence or whatnot. But they're still going to need at least a sign, if nothing else, so that people know where to find them.
Thank you, Jared.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
I'm sorry, Jared, if you want to bring him?
Yeah.
Actually, it's most of the previous speaker. I don't think you can educate teenagers that much anyway, but this is a thing for a minute, that the education has some value. If these people are dropping them off and picking them up, even when you're not there, they're not getting any education, right?
Well, the app does have a how to ride section when they download it, and it gives when they download the app, it does give them instructions on how to use it and the rules. If they go into a place that we've deemed not okay for people to ride in, they get a notification right away saying, you're not allowed to ride in this area. And in general, somebody has to have a credit card to rent it, so it's kind of on the parents. If the parents are renting a scooter for a child to rent, that is hard to manage.
What's your understanding of who's liable?
GoX has a $3 million insurance policy. We cover anything that happens with the scooter, the rider, property damage. We cover everything.
And so your belief is the city has no liability?
None.
Well, I mean, the city has liability to the extent that if there's a road that's not properly repaired, you know, and somebody runs into a pothole, the city, you know, whatever the normal negligence law would apply, they could bring the city in and have to defend the city's interests. You know, and their insurance wouldn't necessarily cover that.
But we do have insurance. When they download the app, they are agreeing to, you know, to ride at their own risk, basically. Same as if you were to go rent a jet ski, you know, if you rent that jet ski and you hurt yourself on it, when you sign something ahead of time saying, hey, you know, I'm taking this risk right now. Again, I'm not an attorney, so.
The city would certainly be in the position of having to defend themselves if the city was named as a defendant in the lawsuit. And, you know, whether we'd be able to successfully defend ourselves would depend entirely on the facts of the case.
Kind of 14-year-old with a contract is what I'm asking.
I'm sorry, we couldn't hear you.
I was just asking, can the 14-year-old enters into this quote contract?
You'd have to be the parents, right? How old, what is the 18 or 21? What do you require?
18.
Have a credit card.
You have to have a credit card. There's no way to rent a scooter without a credit card.
I brought this up some time ago in the context of, do we want to regulate them regardless of whether they're rented here or rented elsewhere? And I sent the staff the Daytona beach regulation, which I think has changed somewhat since then. And that's where I kind of left it, is that we think there was one more issue that Councilman Kalidas, is do we regulate them regardless of where they were rented and regardless of where they're dropped off? And it's not an easy issue. I mean, I'm not saying we.
No, it certainly is, you know, isn't. Again, you know, I think the safety takes care of itself. I just hate with COVID going on and the loss of business they had.
Also provides quite a few jobs.
That, you know, that we say, you know, take this, you know, extra money away from them. But, you know, I understand too. And Louis, yours, you know, I've gone by and they've seemed like they're all in a row. You know, quite honestly, other places don't look quite as good. So I don't know if it's a regulation or what we need to do. That's how I'm feeling. Any thoughts?
I think at the very minimum, if you're gonna go and rent wherever you rent from, you have to return the scooter to that place.
Well, the way we do it is we have the partner locations like Sun Viking, like Boogie Down. When they rent the scooter, they are required to bring it back to one of the locations on the map. So they may rent it at Louis, but they may bring it back to the Sun Viking, for instance. If they do leave it on the street, it pops up and it tells you, hey, if you do this, you're going to be charged a fee. So it does deter them.
On the street, that's my.
Right.
So they're also charged. If they leave it abandoned on the street, that customer's charged. So they have a penalty for doing that. So they know it right on the contract.
Right.
If I leave it abandoned in front of just the 7-Eleven, you know, that's not a drop-off point, they get charged.
It's a good deterrent. It's not going to completely stop it, but that's why we have our ops team as well, that if there is a, you know, abandoned scooter somewhere, you know, we're going to go for
I
it.
also am very confused on the economics of it. We have a hotelier who's saying that he lost $350,000 in business, but made up $6,000 of that $350 here, which is a complete and total joke to me. You said that you made $20,000 for the entire year?
For the entire year.
For the lease, that's how much he was paid from these people.
Just yet. I made $20,000 just from these scooters.
From these scooters.
Not my business, just from these scooters alone. So if you take away the scooters, I lose 20 grand negative next year if they're regulated out. And I'll abide by whatever rule, display rule, whatever it takes to keep the scooters here because it is a $20,000 bonus for me. The year previous, we didn't have them. This is a brand new entity, and that's how much it added.
And so what you're saying is that the scooters, because you've got the scooters, you have the scooters outside your building to rent out.
Right.
And those people, where do they leave them? So I come up to you and I rent it out, I give you a credit card, and
They take off from me and they can leave it in Main Street and they never come back. Or they could ride it to Main Street and back and leave it back in my front door
Or
again.
they could leave it at Cowlex.
Or they could leave it at Cowlex, or they could leave it.
I would say the regulation should be, if they're going to rent from this shop, they bring it back to the shop. That's my opinion.
The whole thing behind it is like I said, you go on the scooter, say to Main Street, and you come back in an Uber. It's not your problem. You have to add another location, and that's the whole thing. It's an exchange, like the bike exchanges in Miami. You ride a bike, but you don't have to bring the bike back. You ride it to wherever you're going, you drop it off at that exchange place, and it sits there. Then somebody else picks up that back and rides it back to my place. So it's a complete exchange thing, and that's all it is it's a scooter exchange, just like we have bicycle exchanges for all these major cities. And it's a transportation, like I said, cheaper than any other transportation.
Where I'm at right now, I don't feel like I know enough about this. I mean, I think I'm just starting to understand this. So, we had this discussion this evening. I don't know if we have to make a final decision on it. Fred, is there any way that, we can meet with you again to see, what?
Can I ask you, what is the $20,000? How much do you bring in? What is your?
What it is we have it's a share program. They own the scooter, they maintain it, they change the batteries on it. It stays at my place, and I educate people how to ride them and rent them from my place.
What percentage of it is your revenue?
35%.
35%.
Right. So they're making 60. The other, 65.
$65,000, of which this is $20,000 of the $65,000.
Whatever the 100% would be, I make 30% or 35% of their revenue. So each scooter is $40 a rental, say for 24 hours, or then just a short ride, maybe just $12.
So let me see if I get it. So before they showed up at your door, your business was taking in $45,000 a year?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
No, my business is way more, but this is a $20,000 entity extra.
I understand. How much does your business take in? Roughly, give me the ballpark figure.
Over 100.
Over 100.
And that was 20,000 more.
And this has on 20 on top. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Last time I asked the city attorney if he was aware of any other cities that have regulated, because I think there's a potential for a lot of unintended consequences. So I think if he hasn't already gotten information, we should task the city attorney to look at some other cities that may have regulated it and what are the pros and cons of those regulations.
And Attorney Kenny, would you be able to do that?
Yes.
Come back, all right. So does everyone feel comfortable though, now either with Fred or Attorney Carey, we're gonna try and find out some more information on regulating this before we make any decision?
I think it's fine. I mean, for me, I understand their business and I understand the business that they're in, and so I get that. But honestly, a hotelier like the Marriott or the Hyatt or, God willing, with a little spit in a prayer, the Treasure Island, I cannot see enabling them renting scooters. I mean, you have to draw a line in the sand someplace. So I understand your shop and what you do, and I get it. But we can't have every single person, Tom, Dick, and Harry hanging up a sign to rent these scooters out. That's just the way I feel. I can't imagine the Marriott as an entity would want to rent them out, or the Hyatt, or the Ritz-Carlton, or I don't want to put too much snob appeal on this, but it is the Shores, and I just can't imagine being able to go to every hotel and every restaurant in the city and go grab motor scooters. You got to draw a line in the sand.
We're not in every hotel or every, I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I mean, I've made my point. I don't want to pile on here, but we've got to really come together as a council and make sense out of this. I don't want to take away. Nobody wants to take away your business, but you're in that business. I mean, that's your shop. I get it, but the Marriott, I don't get it. And frankly, that if you take away the hoteliers and you take away other businesses that this is just a microcosm of their business, you're helping his shop because they have to go to him now.
Right.
correct? I mean, you are helping these two gentlemen.
I mean, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, if we're taking it away from a big hotel like that,
So
or.
let's drive it into them. I mean, I'm much more comfortable.
But most of the businesses we deal with are smaller businesses like it.
But in a town that's, 4.5 miles long and a quarter mile wide, with 45, let's drive the business into there. At least that way we can go to these two gentlemen and say, hey, we have a problem, here's the issue, and you work with them, rather than having, it all over hell's creation.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
If Rick is done.
Are you done? Yeah.
I want to dovetail his argument because it makes a lot of sense. This gentleman, and I'm sorry if I speak contrary to your business interests, but the business model is the more pickup and drop-off locations, the higher the frequency, the higher the volume, the higher the revenue. But we as a city government, if we take into account that the majority of our citizens are senior citizens and anxiety, intimidation, nuisance, whatever you want to put on there, especially during the season when we have tourists come in town. I agree with Councilman, soon-to-be Commissioner Frizzalone, that people that retail those type of products, like Boogie Down rentals, where they have golf carts, they have the scooters, they have the bicycles, they have surfboards, they have stand-up paddle boards. That's where the consumer's going to go ahead and rent that product, and not allow the hotels to do it. And now what you've done is you've limited the points of contact, and now you've limited the volume. The service is still here. You can't stop anyone coming from Daytona or Ponce Inlet, but you sure can regulate your city. And now what you're doing is you're making them more economically viable, especially in these times of need. So I like the idea, and then it's consistent with our theme. We don't want our city to look like a circus where every Tom, Dick, and Harry's renting these. So if you regulate it to say you have to be a retailer, and we'll give you a limited, an ability to display them, there has to be something nice, and that way Gwen comes in and she goes, this not, because what you have, the hotels are displaying them, they're in parking lots, they're in the lobbies, they're in the, and another thing I'd like to make. So I'm going to be in favor of finding regulation, let the retailers retail them, we'll have an ability to control them. But number two, I think we have to have an abeyance in going forward with any code enforcement violations till we have a comprehensive plan. Because right now, we've got everyone scared. They're like, oh, well, they're not going to make a decision within the next 30 days. Now I'm going to be a $200 fine a day. So let's let the city attorney look at what we can do and not have any lawsuits. But at the same time, whether we can regulate it, but we're not going to stop it from coming in. It's going to come in from other cities. That's my 2 cents.
And Attorney Carey, I'd like you to continue with, checking on that. But Gwen, can you come up a minute? Did you say there was 12 locations in the Shores? Okay, can you tell me how many were hotels, how many retail, how many?
Absolutely, Madam Mayor, City Council members. Of those 12, 4 were hotels.
Okay.
Then in the GCRD district, we have a smattering of everything. We have some GC1, GC, and GCRD. So the rest are, but they're all a little bit different from one another, generally.
Anything else that's similar to Boogie Down that it's similar to the product they're currently selling?
I was trying to identify any others. There are some that are retailers, but not retailers of that type of product, like the Quick Mart, at 3348, Cyber Fuels up at 1910. So nothing exactly like them. Everybody that I spoke with really had the same thing to say, though. Their first positive was not about the money, was about the fact that they were excited to have an additional amenity to offer. That was the first thing that everybody said. And then the money I was rather surprised about. One person said $3,000 just in the summer that I would have had to close if I hadn't had. Another said $8,000 for the 9 months that I've had them here. And everybody was happy with this particular company. We did have 2 companies. We're down to 1. The GoX company, people were very satisfied with regard to their responsiveness and their level of service, not leaving them laying around. And I have been surprised as well. If I've seen one, it's been gone the next time I've gone out. So I'm not sure if other people have noticed that, but I was rather pleasantly surprised.
So there are 12 from all the way down on the south of Dunlawton down to Daytona.
just south of Dunlawton is our furthest south spot at this time, and they go all the way up to the north end.
All right, any other questions for Gwen?
I think we need to understand there are two issues. One, what do we want to do about people doing business in the shores? And two, what kind of regulations do we want to have on scooters? Because we can't keep scooters ours are shores. They'll come in regardless of whether they're rented in the stores. And that's what John, I assume, is going to check on is, what cities have regulated scooters and bikes that are in the city limits? And then I think if we try to say hotels can't do it and other businesses can, I believe there are going to be fairness issues there.
I disagree with you respectfully. I think once you have a retailer that specializes in that business, I think and the city attorney will chime in, but I think you can make it happen. And again, that's our goal, is to limit the number of entities that have access to these, so that way we don't create a carnival type atmosphere where every Tom, Dick, and Harry's got it. It has to be related to your business.
Thank you, Gwen.
May I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Well, I have a question.
Councilman Frizzlone has the floor.
That's okay, let him ask a question.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
no.
Go ahead.
No, my question was for the gentleman, his bikes. I'll start out by saying I'm pro-business. I am all for business. I ran a business for 30 years of my own, so I'm very sensitive, especially in this time. However, I experience bad vibes when I'm walking on A1A and 3 or 4 scooters, and they're young kids, and they don't go single file. This is one of the problems. Is there any way that you can make these, or we can make these, stay in single file? Excuse me. Because what happens is they're coming up behind you, racing each other, 3 wide, two wide, and 1 in the middle, and somebody's walking on the street, and like me, if I hear them coming, or a lot of times they'll come from behind. If they come from the front, I can see them and I can make a move, but I'm the one that has to make the move because they're too immature to anticipate what's going to happen. So
that is the thing. I mean, it's like I said, it's raising the kid, because it's an 18-year-old that's the youngest age to have a credit card. If the parent rents it for their kid and they don't monitor them, that's just like kids playing in a playground or
parents,
a BB gun running out there shooting birds. I mean, you can't.
Well, no,
I understand
parents aren't riding around with them.
I understand that, but I don't know how we can actually regulate. We could put it on our website. We could put it on the website to say, has to be under adult supervision. Again, it's not gonna.
Single file. I mean, if they would follow it.
Put that on every scooter too.
Yeah, they can please ride in single file. I mean, the issues like that, we can identify and do, because they're willing to do and work with us anyway. It's a viable business for them as much as it is a viable business for me. So we're not against any suggestion. And I mean, even in my shop, we have brochures. The reason it works so successfully for me and I make more than anyone else is because I explain them to every customer. When they come in, they ask how to rent it, what to do with it, what's the proper procedure, can you ride it on the beach? Well, you're not supposed to. I'm like, if you bought one from me, you gonna take your electric scooter on the beach? And they go, no. I'm like, then why would you ride this man's on the beach? So it's education, and we educate. Does the hotel or whatever, I'm not against any of them. I mean, if they're a business like me, so I'm not gonna downplay them, but do they educate? Maybe not. They're just letting them use the app. But we're actually educating each customer and telling them how to use them and what to do. And that's the best I can do for any business. Same thing with my golf cart.
Would you be willing to make that part of your education?
Oh, definitely.
Tell them they must ride single file.
Definitely.
Right.
I mean, like I said, I will tell them, it's like me, they have to see a video that we've had our chief of police do, and it's been there for 7 years, and we've probably showed more people in the shores what the wooden stake is on the beach, not to drive in the unincorporated areas or whatever, and nobody even knows what those are, but we do it every single day on every person that rents from us. The scooters aren't a part of that video, but we could actually add it to our video, or they have to watch it also. I mean, we're willing to work with you anyway. I mean, it's a viable part of my business.
You could have that video playing at all locations as well.
I mean, that short video, I mean, we have Catherine that helps us out, and she's here in the shores, and she would actually make one just for scooters, so we could have a separate, here's an educational video, ride single file, do it this, and they have to watch it if they rent from me.
Well, you might tell them that if they don't ride single file, that they're probably not gonna be able to ride at all.
There you go, that's part of it. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's, Councilman Frizzlin said he's okay, so I think that's the end of the discussion, so Attorney Carey will come get back to us.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
So,
If you can come back up here, we have,
so you guys are kind of, you're here to discuss what's going on. In the meantime, you guys have gone around to each of our partners and told them that you were going to find them. Is there a way that we can kind of kick that can down a little bit in the interim while we just figure out what we're going to do?
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion.
My recommendation.
Yep. Fred, you're all right with that?
Certainly, it's at the council's discretion if they want us to hold our code enforcement action in abeyance until you guys make a decision, we can do that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Are you operating in any city that does have regulations?
St. Pete, they have, St. Petersburg, they have, as far as tax regulations and, is there code regulations there?
No, they don't have code regulation, but they do have, they require a permit.
They require a permit there, as well as Hawaii too.
More regulations on the scooters themselves, where you can ride them, how fast you can go.
Daytona has told us that from, down there by the beach, they don't want them on the, on A1A. So we're working on getting a geofence set up so that the scooter will actually turn off when they get to that.
I'm just trying to give him some leads.
So
Daytona Beach is one.
Daytona Beach, they don't want them on A1A. So again, we're working on a geofence for that to actually keep people from going into places, and that is definitely doable. If there's a certain area that you don't want scooters at, we can actually build a geofence to stop the scooter once it gets there.
If you could stop them from A1A, I think you would overcome 99% of the objections here, because that's where the people go from the west side.
It's hard to do, it is challenging because of the fact that most of the businesses are on A1A as well. Which, when you get into the Shores area, it's not nearly as congested as when you get down, between International and Seabreeze. That's where it really gets challenging to have scooters down there. It gets really congested as well.
Okay, well, thank you for coming this evening. Okay, next on the agenda, don't remember who added this, but discussion in support of banning smoking in public parks and beaches. I was a little confused about the beaches, since that's controlled and maintained by the county. Who was this you? Okay, all right. Did you actually want to say the beaches?
Huh?
Did you actually want to say beaches?
Well, the beaches, the way the bills are currently written, the city limits encompass the beach. The cities could regulate. If they don't, if they try to regulate, they can't do anything that would conflict with the county, any county would. The county would be able to regulate the beaches under the order. So this doesn't require anybody to regulate, it just gives them the capability to regulate smoking.
Okay, so right now, Fred, I had talked to you about this before. At the dog park, we put up a no smoking sign, but we didn't exactly ban it, did we? What did we do at the dog park?
No, we just put some signs, or we put some signs up out here too, that,
Says
so,
no smoking.
I don't know if we're actually, enforcing it or anything.
Okay, so, Councilman Bryan, you're looking at an actual ban on smoking?
No. It gives you the ability to regulate. It doesn't require you to do anything. You could ban it, you could do nothing, you could do something in between.
Can I chime in there, Mayor?
Because I'm not quite understanding.
To just offer some clarification. Right now, on the books, there's a state statute that prohibits local governments from banning smoking in parks and on the beaches. What I think Councilman Bryan is asking for is to pass asking for permission to prepare a resolution in support of a Senate bill and a House bill that would repeal those laws and allow regulation.
Yeah, right.
So
I didn't understand
It
that.
doesn't require us to do anything.
I didn't either, no, I don't.
It just gives everybody the ability to regulate.
Okay, so we just want a resolution supporting that bill that's actually,
Yeah. That's what it's right now, yes. And the other thing the bill does, just for your information, that bill will ban smoking in state parks if it stays the way it is.
okay, so is.
I have no interest in participating in that endeavor. We have other things to do for our citizens, and if we don't have jurisdiction over these entities, and it's up to the state government, then we'll yield to the state, and they're much wiser than we are. So they'll do what they feel is legal, but I don't want to participate in any kind of banning on smoking in public parks and/or beaches.
I honestly didn't understand it enough until Attorney Carey explained it to us. So right now, the state is saying you cannot ban it. Is that what you're saying?
Right. And you cannot regulate it.
No, you cannot regulate it to ban it. It's the same thing. Let's not mince words here. You want to ban it.
Isn't it regulate?
State says you can't do it.
I don't want to ban it, I just want to support the bill.
I don't want to support a bill. I just want to conduct business that concerns the citizens of Daytona Beach Shores.
Okay, any other comment on it?
Does it say regulate?
Mel, any other comment? No, okay. Well, so I guess that was our discussion. Okay, so moving now to council comments.
Well, the action is, we want to support the resolution or not?
I don't think we can make that decision. We would have to, I guess we'd have to have a consensus or put it on the agenda.
I need more facts. I would need more, I don't know what we're trying to.
What bill is it? And I would have to look at.
The actual bills are in the agenda, but
HB 239. HB 239.
Okay, would it, Councilman Bryan, would it be okay if, like I said, I did not understand when it was on here like that. I didn't understand it was already a House thing. I wish we would have put it on there. I would really like to read over this House bill and get a little bit more information. Can we re-put it for discussion on our next agenda? Would that work for you?
yeah, that's okay. I mean,
Well, one of the problems we're gonna have to be aware of is that those bills get modified on a regular basis. So what we look at today won't necessarily be what they're gonna vote on next week.
Okay, like I said, I would still like to look it over a little
Oh,
bit.
yeah, sure, but I'm
Okay.
saying somebody might have to follow it if we're gonna.
Councilman Bryan, would you be willing to follow it and give us an update?
yeah, I'll be ready to give us an update.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, is it okay if we move on to council comments now? Would that be okay with you? Okay, do you, I'll start with you at that end. Do you have anything? Council comments? Yeah, I'm starting this way this time.
Yeah, I'd like to see a fairly definitive report on Treasure Island at the next council meeting.
Okay, can you describe what you mean by fairly definitive? I think,
Specific things that have been done, like, the only thing that I know for sure that's been done, and I'm not even, I haven't seen it, is that ownership has been transferred. I don't know whether anything else has been done, other than, meeting and talking. So I'd like to know, basically what the status is with some specifics, if there's any other concrete action that's been done, other than the foreclosure and the transfer of ownership. I'd like to know.
all right, and Councilman Frizzlon, would you like to take that, or should I put that for city manager? You might be able to discuss it with them.
We can put down.
I think I'm absolutely fine with answering any questions and working hand in hand with
Okay,
city
so
manager.
by the next meeting, would that be okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, all right. Okay, anything else?
And, well, no, I don't think anything else.
Okay. Vice Mayor, do you have anything?
Yes, I'd like to just clarify one thing. At the workshop, public safety workshop, a comment I made was misunderstood, or apparently misunderstood by some people, so I just want to clarify. Without reservation, I am 100% in favor of triple training of our current officers and retaining it.
Okay, thank you. Two of the things that I want to talk about, we have the privilege tomorrow at Coffee with the Mayor to have our new county chair, Jeff Brower. So I'm going to invite everyone there. Please invite all your friends and neighbors. It will be upstairs in the community center at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And Nancy, I'm going to call on you. Can you go over the food truck real quick? We're going to have one more meeting before then, but Nancy's taken it upon herself. Our concerts normally were, people just love the concerts, by the way. I get so much feedback on that. But Nancy's going to have food trucks there this time. So can you just give us the date and what's going to be going on?
Sure, it's February 26th, is the last Friday of the month. And the food trucks will start serving at 4:30. There'll be 10. There's
Will they be in the grassy area?
yes, around at McElroy Park, around this oval circle there. And we've been working with Fred's crew and Ski's crew, and we're looking forward to it.
I am too. Well, yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for arranging that. I think it'll be a big hit. Thank you. Councilman Frizzolo?
Yes, I'd like to congratulate the chief and the captain there for coming in with a terrific presentation at our workshop, and I wish you all the best in your recruiting and keeping us safe and continuing your great work in public safety, just both of you.
Thank you.
How many interviews do you have this week?
We have 4 or 5 tomorrow, yeah.
You remember, one of our citizens did say, maybe when they get onto the second stage about just having, one of us there or one of the citizens just to tell you how welcome they are, how much we honor our public safety. I'd like to take this idea, but it actually wasn't mine. It was one of our residents that suggested it. Somebody that's there this evening, but all unnamed. But anyway, I think it'd be a great idea myself.
That's a very good idea.
Count me in.
It's a great idea.
Councilman Politis? Or Commissioner Politis?
Soon to be. The citizens and the ones that are here and the ones that are listening or watching have no idea about how important it is to have a first-class public safety department. And the proof is tonight we gave a 30-year award to Glenn Schwartz, and I've known Glenn 25 years. And to fill those shoes, you got to have a first-class candidate recruit, that you're going to continue to evolve into getting him to the level of performance, and we're losing. I mean, listen, we got a lot of great law enforcement officers, but when you lose someone like Glenn Schwartz, it's hard to replace him. And that was the whole theme behind the presentation of I need access to more resources so I can hire better quality people, so that way we don't get involved in lawsuits and we don't get involved in a lot of turnover. And so I'm glad that we all harmonized and we all agreed to support, and Kurt is working on the finances so that way we don't expose the taxpayers to additional taxes, and we're going to make it happen. But when I heard Glenn's retiring in 30 years, it's going to be a big loss. Thank you.
For those of you that weren't there, when the chief came up and talked, I'm going to say from his heart, he is so committed to providing excellent service in the shores. So he is not going to get just anyone out of that class. He wants someone that's going to provide the level of service that we are used to and that he demands. So that was so evident when he talked to us. In order to get that particular person, there are certain things that we need to assist him in. And I'm glad to say we had 5 that agreed, yes, chief, whatever you need. So thank you. I think,
Can I make one comment on that?
Certainly.
The statement was made that police around the country are not appreciated enough. I think we can turn that into an advantage, into a marketing advantage. And not just when they come to interview, but in terms of our advertising and so on, we should say the police are really supported by the population and by the city council here, and you'll like it here much better than where you are, because we're not for defunding the police.
Right.
And I think that's, rather than waiting until they get here for an interview, just use it as a recruiting.
Part of our tagline.
Yeah.
Good idea.
But I think that goes along with what Mayor Miller proposed, and that's having some of us show up, one of us show
That's
up.
after they come for the interview.
Well, whenever the chief thinks that it's the right time for us to show our support.
I'm talking about getting the people into the harbor.
So like a tagline in the advertising. Okay, I don't have anyone else for our audience remarks. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to say? Okay, if not, so the items recommended for the next agenda, Sherry, I think we're going to bring back, after we check with the attorney, that electric motor scooter discussion, as well as the smoking. Those two. Does anyone else have anything else they want to add to the agenda?
Treasure Island report.
Treasure Island report, thank you. Okay, anything else? Okay, if not, the meeting's adjourned. Don't forget coffee with the mayor and Jeff Brower.